dangers of exploding shower doors. Monday on Good Morning Washington.
Tonight, dangerous diplomacy, President Trump face-to-face with the controversial leader of the Philippines. The president with growing backlash at home over his comments about Vladimir Putin, the U.S. election, and calling Kim Jong-un short and fat. Not backing down, Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore taking aim at his accusers, claiming he's the victim of a conspiracy. Tonight, what his former co-worker is saying about his dating habits decades ago. Under investigation, prosecutors planning to meet with one of Kevin Spacey's young accusers who says the Hollywood star sexually assaulted him. Panic in the terminal, new surveillance video of the smoking backpack forcing thousands to evacuate an American airport. The hero TSA agent grabbing the bag, rushing it out of harm's way. And sudden collapse, a dance floor crumbling in the middle of a crowded party, sending college students crashing onto the floor below. The moment it all happened.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Tom Llamas, and we begin tonight with President Trump on the last leg of his tour of Asia, facing backlash from 8,000 miles away. The president shaking hands with the controversial leader of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte, accused of human rights violations. President Trump trying to clarify his comments also about Russia's meddling in the U.S. election. Whom does he believe, Vladimir Putin or America's intelligence agencies? All of this coming as the war of words is reignited between the president and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl is traveling with the president.
Protesters faced off with riot police today in Manila, carrying signs reading "Ban Trump" as water cannons blasted the crowd. It's the final stop on the president's nearly 2-week-long trip to Asia. At a gala dinner, he toasted the Philippines' hardline President Rodrigo Duterte. In Vietnam, the president met briefly with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He said among the topics they discussed was Russian meddling in the election.
I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election. As to whether I believe it or not, I'm with our agencies, especially as currently constituted with their leadership.
U.S. intelligence agencies have concluded that Russia did meddle in the 2016 election and that Putin ordered it. Earlier on Air Force One, the president describes Putin's words this way. Every time he sees me, he says, "I didn't do that." And I really believe that when he tells me that, he means it. He also called the former heads of the top 3 intelligence agencies, the CIA, the DNI, and the FBI, quote, political hacks. Today, the former director of the CIA said President Trump is giving Putin a pass.
I think it demonstrates to Mr. Putin that Donald Trump can be played by foreign leaders who are going to appeal to his ego and to try to play upon his insecurities.
On Twitter, the president dismissed his critics. When will all the haters and fools out there realize that having a good relationship with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing?
We have to get to work to solve Syria, to solve North Korea, to solve Ukraine, to solve terrorism. And, you know, people don't realize Russia's been very, very heavily sanctioned.
He also took on North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, tweeting, "Why would Kim Jong-un insult me by calling me old when I would never call him short and fat? Oh well, I try so hard to be his friend. Maybe someday that will happen." The president was asked if he really thought he could become, quote, a friend of Kim Jong-un.
That might be a strange thing to happen, but it's certainly a possibility. If that did happen, it would be a good thing for, I can tell you, for North Korea. But it would also be good for lots of other places, and it would be good for the world.
Friends with Kim Jong-un. Okay, we'll have to see if that ever happens. Jonathan Karl joins us now from Manila, where the president is set to have his first formal meeting with President Duterte in a few hours. Human rights groups say the Philippines leader has backed the illegal killing of more than 7,000 of his own people in the country's drug war. Is that likely to come up, John?
White House officials say it will come up, that the president will bring up that and other human rights issues. But they've also said that President Trump has a, quote, warm rapport with Duterte, and the president seems quite proud of his relationship with the Philippines president. So I frankly can't see this being a major topic of discussion for President Trump.
Jonathan Carl leading us off tonight from the Philippines. Jonathan, thank you. Back here at home, growing outrage against Senate candidate Roy Moore in Alabama. The conservative Republican fighting back against 4 women, one accusing him of molesting her when she was 14, and others who say they dated him when they were teenagers and he was in his 30s. Moore not backing down as calls from fellow Republicans grow louder for him to drop out of the race. ABC's Stephanie Ramos is in Alabama.
Tonight, Roy Moore refusing to back down against mounting pressure to drop out of the Alabama Senate race.
These attacks involve a minor, and they're completely false and untrue. I have not been guilty of sexual misconduct with anyone.
Moore rebuking allegations reported in the Washington Post that when he was 32, he initiated sexual activity with a 14-year-old girl. The article also details accounts that Moore pursued 3 other women between the ages of 16 and 18.
From my point of view, I have to say I think the accusations have more credibility than the denial. I think it would be best if Roy would just step aside.
Republican Senator Pat Toomey joining John McCain and Bob Corker in calling for Moore to withdraw immediately. 41 other Republican senators saying he should step aside if the allegations are true.
What has to happen before you would advise the president to say Roy Moore should step aside?
The president said he should step aside if the allegations are true.
So where does the if lie?
But Martha, hold on. I want to broaden this conversation. It would be a very dangerous precedent for any of us, for any person in this country, to just be cast aside as guilty because of press reports.
Tonight, Teresa Jones, who served as a deputy DA alongside Moore, tweeting it was common knowledge about Roy's propensity for teenage girls. In a radio interview, Moore was asked about dating teenagers.
Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no. If I did, I'm not going to dispute anything, but I don't remember anything like that.
But now, Moore remaining defiant, launching a fundraising drive saying we are in the midst of a spiritual battle with those who want to silence our message.
In the next few days, there will be revelations about the motivations and the content of this article. They will be brought to the public.
Stephanie Ramos joins us live from Alabama. And Stephanie, this story has been developing for several days. I was down there when it broke, and there was a sense that this was all dirty political tricks. Is that still the case with voters now?
Not really, Tom. You know, the support for Roy Moore here runs deep. Most voters we spoke with say they believe him despite the accusations. They say they stand by his values and they believe that he can stand up to Washington politics. Tom?
Stephanie Ramos for us tonight. Stephanie, thank you. We're also tracking some breaking news overseas tonight. The deadly earthquake hitting along the border between Iran and Iraq. The quake, a magnitude 7.3, sent people running for safety. More than 60 dead, 300 hurt. The death toll rising tonight. Buildings were swaying in Baghdad, more than 150 miles away. The quake also felt in Kuwait, Lebanon, Pakistan, and Turkey. Next tonight, panic at the airport terminal in Orlando, Florida. Surveillance video showing smoke coming from a backpack near security. A TSA officer, an Army veteran, grabbing the bag, thinking it may be an IED. Here's ABC's Adrian Brankert.
Security line. Tonight, new video shows the panic when a backpack starts smoking. Passengers at Orlando International Airport scrambling, dropped bags hitting the floor, sounding like gunfire.
People were basically running over each other, trampling each other.
With fears it could explode, TSA officer Ricardo Perez grabs the bag and moves it between 2 pillars to block a potential blast.
So if there was an IED, I was already gone. So I might as well just try to save as many as I can.
Turns out it was a false alarm. The real cause, a lithium-ion camera battery that caught fire. The TSA calling Perez, a 20-year Army veteran, a hero.
I'm not a hero.
So far this year, there have been at least 19 incidents involving lithium-ion batteries on planes or in airports, and they're on the rise. The FAA shows what can happen when one of those batteries catches fire in luggage.
We know that they're dangerous. We know that they have brought down airplanes.
Tom, the FAA continues to push for tighter regulations in part because if a battery catches fire in a checked bag mid-flight, crew members have no chance of putting it out. Tom?
Adrian Brankert for us tonight. Adrian, thank you. New developments in the allegations against Kevin Spacey. ABC News confirming prosecutors plan to meet with the son of a former Boston news anchor, claiming Spacey sexually assaulted him last year when he was 18. Here's ABC's Eva Pilgrim.
Tonight, Kevin Spacey now the subject of a criminal investigation.
I've made you the president.
The House of Cards star accused of sexually assaulting a then 18-year-old at a bar last year.
Kevin Spacey went to the restroom and a woman came forward and told my client, run.
Prosecutors now planning to meet with the teen after his mother, a former Boston News anchor, went to authorities.
The victim, my son, was a starstruck, straight, 18-year-old young man. Spacey stuck his hand inside my son's pants.
So far, 15 men have come forward accusing Spacey of sexual misconduct. In Los Angeles, dozens of women marched in support of victims of sexual assault. This as Hollywood begins its march to the Oscars. On the governor's ball red carpet, stars faced questions about the toxic culture.
I really hope that this is a huge paradigm shift and it can be a course towards systemic change.
But inside at the podium, so often used as a voice for change, no mention of the sexual harassment and assault allegations rocking Tinseltown.
Dustin Hoffman.
The crowd applauding as Dustin Hoffman took the stage, accused just 2 weeks ago of groping a 17-year-old production assistant in 1985.
And Hoffman has apologized, saying it's not reflective of who he is. Meanwhile, reps for Kevin Spacey say he is getting treatment. But the attorney for the young man accusing him says they are looking for that woman in the bar and hoping that she will come forward, Tom.
Yeah, they want to hear what she saw and what she did. All right, Eva, thank you so much. Next tonight, new developments in the deadly church shooting in Texas. The First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs holding its first service since last Sunday's massacre that killed 26 people, including an unborn baby. The gunman's first wife speaking out about living a life in fear with a man she called a, quote, demon. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Texas.
Tonight, inside the Sutherland Springs First Baptist Church, 26 chairs sit empty to honor the men, women, and children who died here just 1 week ago. Mourners, including even the mother-in-law of 26-year-old gunman Devin Kelley, joining survivors packing this temporary church as the first wife of the shooter is speaking out.
He just had a lot of demons or hatred inside of him.
In this interview clip released by Inside Edition, Kelly's ex-wife Tessa Brenneman describes in horrifying detail the time he held a gun to her head and threatened to kill her because of a traffic ticket.
He took that gun out and he put it to my template and he told me, "Do you want to die? Do you want to die?"
Kelley pled guilty to assaulting his first wife, but after discharging him, the Air Force admits they did not relay the killer's court-martial conviction to law enforcement, which should have prevented him from purchasing a firearm. That mistake changing this community forever. 2 buried over the weekend. The earth at the town cemetery preparing for even more caskets.
Tom, Texas Senator John Cornyn pledged shortly after attending today's service to introduce new legislation on background checks as early as Monday. This is church members say they will worship inside their church next week. Tom.
Marcus Moore for us from Sutherland Springs tonight. Marcus, thank you. Next tonight, the frightening scene in San Diego, those obstacle courses becoming more and more popular. But tonight, nearly 24 children hurt when a platform collapses at one of those courses inside of an indoor gym. Parents scrambling to find children under the debris. Here's ABC's Marcy Gonzalez.
Children terrified and in tears rushed out of this obstacle gym in San Diego on stretchers and in the arms of first responders.
Everybody was crying and bleeding.
The aftermath of a platform collapse that injured at least 23 people and is under investigation tonight.
The kids were obviously going like crazy, scared.
Diego Madrigal saying at around 7:40 Saturday night, employees announced they were serving pizza when dozens of children rushed upstairs to the wooden platform overlooking the rest of the gym. That platform collapsing, sending people toppling more than 10 feet to the ground below. Others underneath hurt by falling debris and broken glass.
Luckily, a lot of the injuries were only very minor bumps and bruises.
The gym's owner tonight offering no explanation, but sharing this apology.
We're trying to do the very best that we can to make everything right.
Fire officials say they are looking into whether there were any code violations. Tonight, 2 of the people injured are still hospitalized, but expected to recover. Tom.
Marcy Gonzalez for us tonight. Marcy, thanks so much. Next tonight, news about your Thanksgiving travel plans. The weather team tracking a possible storm hitting the Midwest late into the week, just as holiday travel starts to get underway. And this programming note, tomorrow morning, a special Good Morning America Road to Recovery, focusing on the relief and recovery efforts from